Thanks for joining me for another process video. Today I'm going to be using this Reflections by Lori Whitlock, and I am using photos from when I took my nephew to the Family Fun Center. And this is just like a theme park that's here locally in Orlando, and their slogan is "It's huge," so that it actually ends up being my title. He had a blast at the area because at this time, I think he was probably 5, and there are a lot of theme parks that we go to, like Universal and Disney World, where he's just not big enough to ride some of the rides, and this place caters to younger kids, so they have several of the rides that like Disney World has. Like one of them was the teacups, but it was a smaller version of it, so he was able to ride it, and he's been asking to ride the teacups for the longest time. I have severe motion sickness, so I cannot ride it with him, and you have to be a certain age to ride it at Disney World, so he was so excited to be able to ride it here. And then there's also pictures from the bumper cars and some other of the kids rides there. So I wanted to use a collection that maybe doesn't necessarily stand out as boy collection or theme parky collection, so that I can show you guys that really you could use whatever works for you, whatever is best for you. You don't have to use certain things. So this background that I'm using here actually has like dragonflies. I think those are beets or some type of flower on it, and some trees. So I'm going to cover up most of it on what ends up being the right side of the page, but the left side of the page you're going to see quite a bit of it. But I like that black and white and how it stands out against these photos, because these photos are so bright and they have so much color to them. So all I'm doing here is making a grid and making all of the photos fit. So you can see that I've cut down several of the photos, and now I'm measuring out the one side of it because I wanted it to be the same size, and that's all I had was the one full sheet plus the other side, which I ended up using to cut out the strips as well. So I wanted to make use of that paper because I don't see myself ever using that paper anywhere else. So I used the Gathered Twigs Distress ink, and I'm going to distress all of the sides of the paper here, and it already has sort of a distress look to it on some of the sides, so I really wanted to go in and add to it. So you see that I went a lot further than I normally do with my distressing, and so that you could really see it. So here is where I start putting everything down, and I'm using my T-square ruler to find the 3-inch mark, because I believe this is a 6x12 piece of paper, so 3 inches at the top and 3 at the bottom. And then I'm going to lay the photos out again, and using my T-square ruler to make sure that it's straight, then adding down each one of the photos. So you can see that I did a grid style, and I ended up moving over some of the photos. They weren't straight. Even though I use my T-square ruler, sometimes they just don't end up being straight. So just straightening up all of the photos here. Right side of the layout is really focused on photos. There's a ton of photos in there. And these are some just random photos that we took. So there's not really cohesiveness to the photos because there's, it's just such a variety at this amusement park. So this is where I decide that I don't want the left side of the paper to be 12 by 12. Since I went all the way to the edge of the paper on the right, I felt like I needed to break it up a little bit on the left. So I cut off 2 inches, so made it 10 by 6. Then when I went to cut down the brown strips, realized that I cut them too short. I cut 4 inches off instead of 2 inches. So back to the drawing board and cutting out more strips. But I'm sure I will use that brown wood grain because that's such a generic paper line that I'm sure I can find another use for those strips later. So once I get these 2 down, then I'm going to start adding the photos back in these 2 photos that I have. And the one photo that I'm putting down right now, that is a photo of me and my nephew's on my shoulders, and there's like this big monster truck behind us. And he thought that that was just the greatest thing in the world, is to see that monster truck. So then I pull out this new border punch that I got. I picked this up at Amazon, and I will link it below. I love this because it just gives it a little bit of an edge to it. And so I think it looks perfect with what I'm trying to accomplish here. So I cut out a piece. It's 12 by, I think, 1 inch. And then I end up cutting it down so it spans across those 2 photos. And then I realized that I wanted to use that other piece so it didn't go to waste. So I found that it fit perfectly over there on the right side of the photo, or the right side of the layout. So now I'm starting to try to figure out where I'm going to embellish, and I end up using this 3x4 card. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out, I first thought I was going to use it just as it is, the 3x4, and then I felt like it was just too much. So I end up cutting it down, and I'm going to use just the white banner there, and with a little tiny border of that brown. I think that it works better that way. So I'm just cutting it out, and I'm being very precise about it. So I'm going back and forth as opposed to just tearing it out, because I actually end up using that piece that I cut out next to that last photo on the left. So I'm trying to decide where I thought I might put it on the right, but it ends up being on the left. And I like the way that turned out, as it brings those 2 clusters together. So then I'm going to use this card here that says life, and I'm going to add that to the cluster at the bottom. Then I'm going to put it up on fun foam to give it some dimension, because it's very similar to the colors in the background, the cream color and the brown, that I wanted to give it a little dimension behind or in front of the photos, or in front of that layout. So, and I also use fun foam on that life piece as well. This is the sticker sheet that came with this collection, so I'm adding a couple pieces to it. This is a little ticket, and this is where I end up journaling. And just adding a few other pieces to it. I like that little 5-cent because it's similar to a fair, theme park fair. The entrance is free, and then you have to purchase tickets and things like that. So even though it is a pretty popular theme park, it is one of those that you have to pay per ride or per attraction. So I thought that 5 cents was perfect. It was not 5 cents. It was way more than 5 cents, but I thought it just added a little bit to it. So now I'm adding some wood veneer with that heart, and then the cameras, or a camera. And I have, when you buy these little people, there's so many of them. But because I have a majority of boys, I have almost run out of boys. And so I wish I could just buy little men because I have a ton of the women left. So I don't get to use them as much as I did when I first got them, because I'm running low on little boys. So I don't even know that I have enough to do. Like, I couldn't do one where it had all of them, because like a layout with me, my boyfriend, and the 2 boys, because I don't have enough of the different sizes to do that. So I add that arrow and then one more little diamond and a little square, and that actually ends up coming off, that little square that I just added, because I need a room for the date. So I hate when the layouts don't line up exactly and you have to trim them up a little bit, but it's a simple fix, but it's sometimes a pain to do. And then I pulled out my book again that I got the idea from RTS Scrapbooking. It's a fabulous, fabulous book. If you haven't checked out her video in regards to how to store your embellishments, it is such an amazing way to store them, and so I'm so excited that I have that. So I added a few more embellishments from that, and then these are some embellishments that I just picked up recently from a peachy cheap deal, so I haven't had a chance to stick them in the book yet. So I'm going to add my journaling up here at the top, and it's just a simple journaling about how I loved watching Eli ride all these rides at the Family Fun Center. And then I'm going to pull out my title, and I'm using these letter stickers that I got from Tuesday Morning, and I bought these very recently because they have increased the price of their stickers. They used to be $1.99 and now they're $2.19, which is not a big difference and still a way cheaper price than anywhere else. But that's how I know that it's a newer, thicker set from Tuesday Morning. So pulling out my phone in my Google app to get the date, which I'm going to add here. And then that is it for this layout. Thanks everyone so much for joining me. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Here are some close-ups of the layout. If you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layouts, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I hope everyone has a scrappy day. Thanks for watching.